Hello everyone, thank you for joining today's webinar, Rover Product Enhancements v5.20, Enhanced Reporting, Improvements to Auto-Logout, and more, presented by Stay in Touch Implementation Consultant, Tyrus McGlone. I'm your host, Erin Fisher, the content writer here at Stay in Touch. Today's presentation will cover how you can get the most out of Rover v5.20 product release. In this webinar, we will illustrate improvements to the Auto-Logout functionality, explore the new search field added for unassigned reservations in the Day and Nightly Diaries, identify the new Show Upsells Only checkbox added to the Upsell Report, review the Sort by User filter added to the Financial Transactions Adjustment Report, discovered new reports added to scheduled reports, demonstrate mandatory allotment code creation, explore new permission requirements for access to multi-currency, and discover changes to how group rate updates are displayed. We will have a short Q&A session at the end of the presentation. Feel free to submit questions throughout the presentation, and we will answer them in the order they are received at the end. And that's all I have right now. Tyrus, I'm going to hand the presentation over to you.
Thank you, Erin. All right, good morning or good afternoon to everyone. As Erin so kindly mentioned, my name is Tyrus McGlone, and I will go over today's webinar for Stay in Touch Rover's newest features. All right, so getting started with our first bullet is going to be the Auto-Logout improvement functionality. For those of you that may be familiar with Stay in Touch Rover, over the past maybe 3 or 4 months, we've increased our security feature for vulnerabilities, for logging into Stay in Touch and having the ability to log out based on the threshold time that's set by the property. Some properties may choose to have 15 minutes, some properties may choose to have 30 minutes, and etc. For those of you that are not familiar, this threshold is set under the Hotel Details tab. So if I go to Settings, Hotel and Staff, Hotel Details, you will be able to find your Auto-Logout delay. So mine is currently set for 15 minutes. Since I'm actively using the program currently, it will not log me out. However, versus logging me out completely now, we've added this new pop-up, and which I hope you guys can see here. This is basically a timeout tab that will come up. So versus logging you out completely, it will ask you to insert your password based on the user that's currently logged in. Once you log in your password and you hit continue session, you will be able to start the session where you left off versus starting from scratch again. So that's one of our newest features for Auto-Logout. We've also added the ability to search for reservations in our unassigned room diary. So if you go to the menu option, front desk, room diary, we have many properties that will unassign reservations, that will assign rooms to reservations on a daily basis versus assigning it, at the time of arrival. You may assign it maybe the morning of, or the night of the process. For those properties that will go through that process, they have the unassigned toggle here, this little bed icon with the number 3. The number 3 just indicates I have 3 reservations currently that do not have room assignments. I'm going to click on this 3. Now, of course, there are only 3 arrivals so far that do not have room assignments. However, if I had tons, let's say 20 arrivals with no assigned room numbers, I can actually go and search for this now. So the search bar is created here, and I'll just even type in the name Chris. Of course, it narrows it down to Christopher Rodriguez, which has a reservation confirmation for today, but yet that room does not have an assignment. All right, for the upsell report, if I go to the actual menu option, reports, and new report, we have added one checkbox there. So this show upsell only. This box will now be in place and it will open to default. This box just simply means that when you are pulling this report, it will show you rooms or reservations that have been upgraded only, basically. So if you have a standard king room and perhaps that guest has been upgraded to a deluxe king or king superior, any upgrade from a room type will show when you select this box. If you uncheck this box, the report will pull any reservation that has had any type of room type change. So whether you downgraded that room, whether you changed it, upgraded that room, any room type changes will be displayed if you have this box unchecked. Again, this will default to open with show upsells only. We've also added a new user filter inside of the financial transactions adjustment report. So while I'm in reports, I'm just going to go ahead and show you that. So financial transaction adjustment report. If you scroll to the right-hand side of the screen, you'll be familiar with all of the settings and parameters. I'm going to scroll down. We have the sort by, and again, we've added the user filter here. So it allows you to easily search based on who's created different adjustments. And by the way, these are users built within the hotel. All right. Also with financial transaction adjustments and also the action manager, we've added those two reports to the scheduler. So we have many properties that will go through and schedule reports that way it automatically goes to your inbox at a specific time frame. If I go to the menu option, I have the option to schedule report export. And we're currently on schedule exports, but I'm just going to go to new report schedule. And again, we have added the action manager, which is the first report on this list. And if I scroll down, you'll also see the financial transactions adjustment report. Allotments. We have many properties that use allotments as well. Many of you may consider them groups. Some hotels may classify them as two different categories. But for those properties that actually build allotments out in the system, we now require you to have an allotment code. So very similar to a group code. I'm going to go to the groups tab here, and I'm going to go to new allotment. So you have the allotment name here. Of course, you have the allotment code. Again, this will be a mandatory field now. Failure to enter an allotment code, the system will default one for you. I'm just going to show you what I currently have for allotment. So if I look at this Abracadabra LTD, this is the actual default code that has been listed here because I failed to enter a code at the time of creating this actual allotment booking. So when you're doing allotments, if you fail to do so, it will use the first 5 characters of your allotment name, and it will also be followed by the creation, the group start date and the creation time of that allotment. So again, this is a unique value, basically specifically only for that one allotment. Once you have this allotment code here, you cannot go back and change it. So again, you want to be very careful about bypassing this. If you are a property that wants to have your own personal allotment code, you want to make sure that you save this that you enter a code prior to saving the allotment profile. All right, and for those properties that have multi-currency, so we have the ability to actually lock the multi-currency editing tool now. For those of you that are not familiar with it, if I go to the menu option, financials, and currency exchange, this is where you're able to kind of go through and set your values for any other currencies for your property. Again, this is for multi-currency. Again, right now we have also turned this to permission-based. So if I go to the settings here, of course, anything permission-wise will be under hotel and staff. I'm going to click on permissions. For an example, a front office staff member, if I go and just do a search for currency, you will see that the edit multi-currency exchange rate is on the not assigned permissions tab here. So if I wanted to provide permissions, I'll just simply need to drag this over for a front office user. Typically, if you give all permissions to hotel admin users, they will be able to achieve this at any given time. And last but not least, we have constantly updated the groups, specifically the Proforma Invoice for groups that are coming in the future. One thing we have updated is the ability to update the Proforma instantaneously when you modify actual group rates. So for an example, if I go to my group tab here and I'll go to manage groups for an existing one, I'll choose the New York Fashion Week. I'm going to go to the transaction tabs. And again, we do have the ability to show a Proforma invoice now. I've heard a few comments of Proforma invoice is not available when they go to manage their groups. Just a heads up that the Proforma invoice only displays when the group is in the future. So it looks like this group start date, I think it's March 1st. Come March 1st, this will not be displayable for me anymore. But I'm going to go ahead and show you my current invoice for Proforma. I want to print this out just to give you a little detailed view. All right, so you will be able to see that my premium queens are going for a rate of $229. I have my executive 2 queens at $200, and I have my king deluxe at $370. This is all listed on my Proforma invoice. I'm going to go ahead and modify my king deluxe from $370 to a different value. So I'm going to go to room block details, room and rates, and I'm just going to modify this. I'll take it up to 500. And you have the option, of course, to apply to existing reservations and new reservations, or just all new. I'm just going to choose existing and new. And once it's updated, I'm going to go back to my transactions tab and pull a new Proforma just to show that that has updated as well. All right, so if I zoom in here, you will now see that that King Deluxe has modified from 370 up to 500. So again, when you make any rate changes to any group profile, it will modify the Proforma invoice instantaneously. All right, Erin, that concludes all of the features for this webinar. I'll hand it back to you for any questions.
All right, thank you, Tyrus, for that insightful presentation. I'd now like to turn over the floor for questions. Remember, you can submit questions through the question box in the middle of the control panel. All right, so I'll give everyone a few seconds to enter those questions. So the first question is, will the user be logged out after the password is entered incorrectly for the first time?
No. So after the first time, the user still gets 3 consecutive tries. I'm sorry, 2 more consecutive tries. So there are a total of 3 tries before you are logged out of the system. And again, once you log in with that correct password, the system will pick up from wherever you logged off in Rover.
All right. And then the next one, for the financial adjustment report in the report scheduler, will it come in CSV format?
Yes, it will. The same thing for the action manager. If you need that as well, it will come in CSV format.
All right. And that looks like all our questions. Since there are no more questions, I'd like to take to the floor to offer some final thoughts. So 1 second. All right, so today we illustrated improvements to the Auto-Logout functionality, explored the new search field added for unassigned reservations in the day and nightly diaries, identified the new Show Upsells Only checkbox added to the Upsell Report, reviewed the Sort by User filter added to Financial Transactions Adjustment Report, discovered new reports added to Scheduled Reports, demonstrated mandatory allotment code creation, explored new permission requirements for access to multi-currency, and discovered changes to the way that group rate updates are displayed. With that, I'd like to conclude our presentation. Thank you all for coming, and if you have any additional questions, feel free to email me at erin.fisher@shigigroup.com. Thanks again.